It's a lovely morning and a warm welcome to the program. Kunle Arroyo is my name. Across Nigeria's financial landscape, the clock is ticking. The central bank's recapitalization directive issued in March 2024 requires banks to meet new minimum capital bases by March 31, 2026. That is 500 billion naira per international banks, 200 billion naira for national, and 50 billion naira for regional. So far, about 2.4 trillion naira has been raised through the capital market. Yet, analysts say the sector still needs roughly 2.47 trillion naira to close the gap. Out of 44 banks covered by the policy, only 8 have been confirmed by the CBN to fully compliant with around 14 of the 24 commercial banks have met their target, leaving several lenders still grappling for fresh funds or strategic partners. This morning, we will break down who's is ready over the line, those still running hard, and the institutions at risk of missing the deadline. We will also examine what stronger bank capitalization means for depositors, investors, and Nigeria's wider economy. My guest is already here. We'll take a break now. When we will come back, we'll hit the ground running. Please to stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, the program is Business Today, and today we're taking a look at recapitalization. What banks mean? What if bank means March 31 deadline? And I have the guest with me in the studio to do justice to it. I have Mr. Biodun Oja, a financial analyst. It's a pleasure to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, viewers at home. It's nice having you viewing me again.
As somebody who has also been in practice in a commercial institution for a long period of time, what would you say is the meaning of capitalization or recapitalization?
Capitalization. Capital. Capital is money to a layman understanding. Capital is money. Recapitalization is okay. Come. Add to the money you have. Thank you.
Okay, so it's also important that the banks that you have must also have as huge as 500 billion naira before they can also operate in Nigeria.
500 billion naira is not extremely huge, but it is huge because of the value of naira. When you convert 500 billion naira to dollars at the current exchange rate, you have 335 million 626 and 750 US dollars. So it's not a lot of money. So if you are calling it in terms of dollar, it is not a huge amount, but it's because of the current exchange rate that's at about 1,510 naira per dollar. That's why you see it as a huge figure. And the reason for that it's not far-fetched. If you have a lot of money, you can do a lot of things. So it's to build resilience in these banks.
So how do you mean resilience?
Resilience is ability to fund big mega infrastructural projects. Then ability to, because the economy is going somewhere. Tinubu have an agenda and it's unfolding them little by little. You can see that inflation rate has started coming down now. And what is going to happen next is the fact that lending rate is going to be coming down. When lending rate comes down, banks are expected to start funding bigger infrastructure so that the economy can go to where we are going. We are targeting $1 trillion economy. I hope you heard from the Mr. President, and that is going to be commendable. And we need to create more jobs. Startups should be able to approach bank and say, okay, I have this idea, fund me, and then we share the profit. This has not been happening in the banking sector so far.
So but we also had that experience in year 2004 and that of 2005 when banks were also asked to also have to recapitalize
Yes, you note that now the exchange rate then was much lower. So exchange rate and inflation have eroded the value of naira, so to say. So the need for recapitalization.
So do you also believe in this recapitalization of 500 billion naira for international banks, 200 billion naira for national, and 50 billion naira for regional? How realistic do you think this will be?
It's achievable. At least you mentioned that 8 out of the 24 banks have met the capital requirement. I believe banks with I have an insider information that even some banks with national license have met the recapitalization. Banks that are operating with limited liability license have, banks, limited liability banks who could already raise funds through private placement have met. Some of them have met the capitalization target.
We have Access Holdings, that's Access Bank. Yes. We have Zenith Bank, Stanbic IBTC, Wema Bank, Lotus Bank, Jais Bank, Providence Bank, and also Greenwich Merchant Bank. So these are the 8 banks, according to CBN, that have also met that requirement.
Maybe I'm sure Globus Bank has met that requirement. I'm not advertising to that was the bank I worked last.
Okay.
And I still have friends there. I'm still close to the management. They've met the capital requirement. So I know some other banks too that have met the capital requirement. But it's not something we should be afraid of. No bank is going to die, and no depositor is going to lose their fund. The banking sector has.
We will come to what's going to be the fate of depositor in these various banks, because that's also the purpose why we are also running the program this morning. But let's look at the stages. We have international bank, we have national bank, and regional bank. What would you say are the difference amongst these 3 categories?
International banks have license to operate across beyond the borders of the country. That's, to put it simply. While national banks are banks that have license to operate throughout the country. We have regional banks like Signature, ably heard by my former Oga, Nisin Iwedi. So these banks have what do we call it now? License to operate at the region, and we have some banks that have license to operate as non-interest banks, and we have some banks have categories, and you can upscale. Some of these banks that started with regional license have upscaled and started operating as national license. Providence Global Bank, they started as regional banks. Now they are national banks. I hope you know. So some of these banks that are, then another thing I need to add is that if you can't meet up with your capital requirement, you can downscale.
How do you mean downscale?
Okay, it's a new concept. Okay, you asked me to provide 500 billion to be able to operate as an international bank.
Yes.
I can say, okay, no problem. I'm only able to meet 300 billion. So let me be still operating as a bank. Don't seize my license or tell me to go home. I will operate within the border of Nigeria with my 300 billion. So I believe banks that have national license can say, okay, let me reduce myself to a regional license bank so that I can still be able to operate, since I'm not able to meet up with the capital requirement.
So what would not be
in the shore of Nigeria?
What of the various offices they must have also
most of those offices are not as big as the ones they have here. Maybe a few staff. Most of
that means they will close shops. That means they will close shops there. So that means
they will definitely close shop there.
Okay.
That's what it means.
Okay.
They can record their staff, especially those ones that are indigent of the country, to come and be operating here.
Okay.
That's what the downscale means.
Okay.
If you have a national license, you can reduce yourself to regional license bank, since you are not able to meet up, instead of dying and fading out, losing staff, losing money, and losing depositors. So that is the last resort. We have other options that can be explored.
We'll still come to yet roughly 2.47 trillion naira is still needed. 8 banks have met the requirement. 14 of 24 commercial banks are compliant. What does this tell you about the health of the sector? If we have about 24 banks and we're having roughly 14, 18, 8 of them meeting up with the requirement.
As at now, yes, I know it's more. There are more than 8, like I've told you earlier, and it could be an Herculean task to raise capital in this period of time, but no bank is going to die. The other option you have, if you
what does it tell us if a particular bank cannot raise that capitalization for now? What does it tell us? Does it tell us that the banks are also healthy?
Yes, there are healthy banks that cannot raise capital. You have to convince me to bring out my money and invest in you, in your bank. That's what it means to raise capital. See, you have 1 billion. Give me. Let me use it to trade. I will give you so amount at the end of the year. That's what it means to raise capital. And if you are not able to convince people, maybe because of your asset quality or the brand you've been. Thank you.
What risks do depositors also face if weaker banks fail to meet the deadline?
I don't want to scare depositors because cry. They've set up NDIC, National Deposit Insurance Corporation. They also have a way of making sure that they inspect these banks properly. They inspect this bank properly and ensure that there is regular mechanism for. Because most of the challenge that this bank have is mismanagement. Banks that are, go and check the history, banks that have closed shop over the years, they were due to long-term at your own capacity. There are some banks, I don't want to mention them so that I won't be advertising for them. They won't compete with the Fugas. The Fugas are very muscular. They are, by Fugas I mean the big 5. First, UBA, Guarantee Trust, and Access and Zenith.
So UBA is also part of the big bank.
Yes,
but they are yet to meet that recapitalization.
I believe they will meet it. I believe they will meet it. Those are the big banks. If you look at the history of UBA, I'm not advertising for them. It started from the big UBA and Standard Trust Bank. Those are the 2 banks that merged together to form UBA. While they adopted the logo of Standard Trust Bank, historically, they were still using the name of UBA. So, eventually, the new UBA is more or less like a new bank. And they were able to meet up with the capital requirement then when they merged with Standard Trust Bank, using the infrastructure of Standard Trust Bank, because Standard Trust Bank was a very high-tech bank at that level then. So, UBA, I believe that they will meet up.
Well, let's also look at the fintech, and digital banking that who also have. Would you say they are also required to also have this capital for them?
I don't know the capital base for fintech, but fintech operates more or less like a microfinance institution.
Okay.
I don't want to mention their name so that I won't be advertising for them. But fintechs have come to stay. They don't go to CBN directly. They use the what do we call it now? Split authorization with big commercial banks. Most of them have account inside those commercial banks with which they operate their own transaction. They are not threats to commercial bank because what they do is different from what commercial banks does. They are in there not basically to compete with them, but they have the, what do we call it now? They have the tech knowledge. So they now say, okay, let me use my tech knowledge to be able to earn 1 or 2 extra income. Look at payment service bank like Momo and Smart Cash and the other one. I can't remember the one for Globe, but I know Smart Cash belongs to Airtel and Momo belongs to MTN. Those are fintechs that have come to stay, and they are proving their worth in the market.
I don't think this recapitalization will also slow down the activities or also ensure that they have more innovations.
Yes, recapitalization we put them on their toes to have more innovations, and because as fintechs, they are growing. They are growing. If you go around, in fact, if I go to filling station to buy fuel now, I see that commercial banks don't even have POS again. It's all these fintechs that have their POS running, and of course, like I told you, they are not threat to commercial banks. They are working together hand in hand.
Let's look at foreign and regional banks. Some foreign subsidiaries are considering exit or license changes. What does that signal about Nigeria's banking environment?
Come again.
I said there's some foreign subsidiaries. They're also thinking of exiting or changing their license.
Okay.
What does that what does that show about Nigeria's banking environment?
Nigerian banking environment, as far as I'm concerned, is well regulated and there's no negative reputation about Nigerian banking system, because to a large extent the regulators are trying their best to make sure that the integrity of the banking system is maintained. So for regional for international banks that are planning of exit, I will encourage them not to exit. They can downgrade. But I know some regional bank, international banks that are met up with. I think Stanbic IBTC, for instance, have met up. Is a member of Standard Bank Group according to, and they've met up with their requirement. I think EcoBank too will meet up. Why? Because those are international banks that have bases outside the country. EcoBank and some other banks, Citibank, those banks, they will definitely meet up with the capital, except if they are no longer interested in operating in Nigeria, because they have bases outside Nigeria and they can easily import, bring in funds to recapitalize and continue to operate in the country.
And do we see have regional banks around?
Regional banks, yeah, we still have them around. Some are operating in I have signature banks, but they have not yet come to this side. What other regional banks do we have? We have Sun Trust. Those ones too have not come to this side. I think they are entering. They are making, taking their time, one step after the other.
I asked purposely because I also know that they are not known to a majority of people here in Nigeria. But despite that, how do you think they can be strong in the face of dominating national and international banks?
The best thing a bank can do for him or herself is to ensure that asset quality, we call it quality assurance. Over the years, what I've noticed about banks is you must be very, very focused. Don't lose focus. Yes, look at some of these banks. They started from scratch with humble amount. If you know the amount those banks started with, but they became ambitious. Or let me use the term ambitious. They didn't lose focus. They kept at what they are doing. They maintained their asset quality. There was a bank that said, I'm recruiting first class and second class upper only. And they maintained it. They found out that these people, when you put them, train them, even if they come from the background of engineering or science, if you train them in the banking sector, they will do wonders. So those are the things that banks should do. Maintain your, what do we call it now, your standard. Don't compete with anybody. Go at your pace. Before long, you will be there.
So if they do not compete, how would you also make it?
What I'm saying is that I'm not saying you should not compete, but have your own vision and mission that is different. Have your own ambition. Don't try to those people that have been operating in the industry, like I mentioned, the Fugas, you don't expect a regional bank or a bank with national license to start competing with them. Those people can do a lot.
So if invariably the 44 banks that CBN has mentioned are able to meet up with this recapitalization, what will be the effect, especially for depositors and Nigeria's economy?
for Nigeria as an economy, we now have banks that have the financial muscle to be able to finance the kind of economy we want to achieve. Take for instance, like I mentioned, we should be able to have startups approaching banks and say, I have this idea, give me give me fund at single digit interest rate, and the banks will still be able to make profit and go on. So we are talking about resilience, and we are talking about funding the kind of economy we want to achieve. We still have a lot of socio-economic challenges, like unemployment is like an hydra-headed cancer. We need to tackle it. So banks should be able to fund MSMEs. Banks should be able to provide credit that will drive this economy. And then another area we need to look at is the fact that foreign direct investments need to come into these banks, so that we can have more and more robust economy and proper economic growth.
So invariably, if they also have that solid capital base, they should be able to have a single interest rate, especially for
that is what Osrc is working towards. Advanced countries are operating with single interest rates. Why can't we work towards that? And now that what will happen now that inflation rate has come down, interest rate will start coming down. And the principle behind jacking up interest rate ab initio was the fact that money supply must not be too much. The classical economic principle is that when you have excess money in circulation, there will be inflation. And I have been arguing in class that, look, our own kind of inflation is not demand pulled. It's not that we have excess money in circulation alone. It's the fact that things are expensive. Costs have risen due to the fact that we have floated naira and we removed fuel subsidy. That was what caused the inflation ab initio. And now that we have stabilized naira to around 1,510 to 1,000, maybe 570, the inflation rate has started coming down. Are you getting me, sir? Even the cost of fuel has started coming down gradually. So now that this inflation rate is coming down, we can now start reducing lending rate.
Okay.
So that the MSMEs can access credit and create job for Nigerians.
So as a professional, we still have about 6 months to go for the deadline. What would be your advice to these banks for them to meet up with this capitalization?
Advice that I will have, they should stretch their muscle to be able to raise capitalization. If they cannot raise capitalization, look for friends and merge, because there are banks that are friends. Management, they talk to management. This is my friend. Okay, look at it. I have 100 billion naira. You have 200 billion naira. Add it to my own, and we become 300 billion naira.
Can they also go to capital market to raise this money?
Yes, they are always free to go to capital market. They get approval from security and.
So why are they skeptical?
They are not skeptical. Some of them have gone to the market. GTB has gone to the market. They've met up with their capital requirement. Zenith have been to the market. Access have been to the market. They've raised the capital they needed. So others can still go to market. Those who are operating with limited liability company can go PLC and sell share to the public.
Selling shares again?
Yes.
You know, banks were selling shares some years back, and it became a big problem.
Yes, I lost money in some of these banks.
Exactly.
When those go there, it could be very, very funny and very, very heartbreaking that you lose money. But that one is no longer happening now. Fine, if you are a shareholder, you lose your money first before depositor. You are one of the owners of the bank. The shareholder is one of the owners of the bank, so you lose your money first. You don't expect customer to lose money. So what the IDIC is doing is that I will protect the deposit first. Then you have invested, you have taken risk. When you buy share in the bank, you have taken risk.
Exactly.
You have gambled with your money. It's like tete. So if the money comes, and then before you invest in the bank, I want to advise you, ensure that you know the management very well. I've always been saying this. What really killed those banks were mismanagement.
We'll also have another date where we also talk about how people can actually invest in some of these banks, especially in their capital market. We'll come to that. But now for the depositors, as they also look at least 6 months, the deadline, what will be your advice for them?
I've said it. You can continue to stretch your muscle to raise capital. Go to
I'm talking about depositors, those who also have money in these various banks.
There's no need to be afraid. There's no fear. There's no fear. Banks, is the investor that will lose money. Depositor will not lose their money. They are covered by NDIC. There's no need to be afraid.
In the last 25 minutes or thereabout, I've been speaking with Mr. Biodun Oja, a financial analyst and also a former banker, and together we're taking a look at recapitalization. What if banks miss March 31 deadline? That's a March 31, 2026. That is the deadline for all the banks to recapitalize 500 billion, 200 billion and 50 billion naira. I want to thank you so much for sharing your thought with us on the show today.
Thank you. The pleasure is always mine.
That's how it's going to be on the show today. Join us on Friday for another one. Kunle Aruyo is my name. Good morning.